Thanks for joining us this week for another episode of Really Cool People.
Stay tuned for our conversation with Justin Bowen about his spirited and unconventional approach to life and his travel business, Illuminate.
We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast.
Alrighty, hey, thank you for coming with us, Justin. We appreciate you. Before we talk about Illuminate and some of the things that you're doing, we'd love to hear just a little bit about who you are.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. It's always fun to hop on these. So thank you guys for having me. That question's loaded always. About what do you want to know about me? That's always like, depends on who you ask. If you ask my wife, or if you ask my kids. But basically, I've kind of been always beating to my own drum. That's kind of my thing. And since I was a kid, I've always kind of beaten my own drum. Never was the norm, never conformed. I always kind of wanted to do my own thing, and wasn't the brightest student. I wasn't stupid, but I never really applied myself. And so, I barely graduated from high school and went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to Alaska, and that kind of opened my world. I realized that there was so much out there. And it was amazing and incredible and wonderful. And so after my mission, I just wanted to travel. I mean, well, since I was a kid, when you asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? That question. You hear that question. Most people, kids that are smart say, I want to be a doctor, an astronaut, or whatever. Well, my goal, my life dream, and I think I stole it from my brother or something. I don't know where it actually came from, but was to be a sheep herder in New Zealand. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. So it was like, okay, so I went on my 2-year mission and I got home and all I wanted to do was go to New Zealand. So I got engaged and I went to New Zealand and I sheep herded and I hitchhiked the whole country, and it was incredible and amazing. And my fiance at the time had no idea where I was, because at that time we didn't have cell phones, and I had a calling card and I'd call her once a week. And but anyway, those two experiences, New Zealand and Alaska, like really blew my mind. And when I came back from those places, I was so excited, and I was like, you guys, this is amazing. And then I had a point and shoot crappy camera, and I'd show them photos, and it was like, wah, wah. It did not come across as amazing. And so, but I couldn't believe that everybody, when I was young, I didn't travel. We went to like St. George and Boise, Idaho for my vacations, and so now I saw the world a little bit, and I was like, why is not everyone doing this? This is incredible. And so I got married. And my wife was pretty much done with school. She had her bachelor's degree. I hadn't even started because, like I said, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. So I knew I wanted to travel. How do I travel? How do I get paid to travel? I picked up an old film camera, and I started shooting. And I realized, I like this. I'm pretty good at it. That's going to get me to travel. So I went into photography, long story short, and traveled. And since then, really have tried to travel as much as I possibly can. And along the way, my wife and I, she did marry me, which is crazy, because the first time I hung out with her when I was 14, I told her I was going to be a sheeper in New Zealand. And she still married me 7 years later. And 18 years later, we're still married. We have 4 pretty rad kids, and just still trying to travel. I haven't really grown up a whole lot since then. A little better, but still have that passion for travel.
For sure. No, if I were to think of a definition of black sheep, the first thing that would come to mind would probably be Justin Bowen, to be completely honest.
I guess I'll take it as a compliment. I will.
It is a compliment. Yeah. No, we love it. You stand out. Nobody else is Justin Bowen. Nobody else can try to be Justin Bowen.
Well, that's good.
I don't know. I just always admired you for that, because as long as I've known you, which hasn't been super long, but it's been a decent chunk of my life. You've opened a snow cone shack, you've started Illuminate, and you always have the pop collar, and it's just it's a trademark Justin Bowen. So
it is.
We love it, and we just think you're a really cool guy. So that's why we wanted you to come here, be part of really cool people, of course. But So tell everybody who doesn't know about Illuminate, let's hear just a little bit about what that is and where that started.
Yeah, so Illuminate is our travel company, my wife and I. And I'm like, come. And she's like, everyone knows that you're like the face, and I'm actually the one that makes it all run. But so she's the one in the background that makes it all run. But basically, again, I wanted to travel, and photography led me to that. And I shot a lot, and I traveled a lot, and I was working with National Geographic, leading their photo expeditions. They have a student program, and it was so amazing to be able to now, instead of just bringing photos back and being like, look at this, and sharing it that way, I was able to share experiences with these kids at the actual place. So New Zealand, I went back to New Zealand with a group of teenagers, and I went to Alaska with a group of teenagers, and I went to Switzerland. I got to go to these places and actually be next to them while we're experiencing these amazing things. And I realized, like, that's what I've been wanting to do. It was kind of a weird way to get there, but that's what I wanted to do, was share experiences. I had these experiences in these places, and I wanted everyone to be able to. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. I really catered towards the teenage demographic. I clicked with them. I enjoyed being around them. Their life is still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they haven't been jaded yet, and I enjoyed that. And so during these National Geographic student expeditions, I had that with the teenagers, and I was teaching photography and leading these workshops, and I realized, like, I want to provide these opportunities for teenagers of my faith, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want kids to have these experiences. And so my wife actually went on a church history tour when she graduated high school, and I was, again, too cool for school or whatever, and didn't go. And I always kind of wish I would have. But I was like, there's nothing like that. We had just moved to the Heber Valley in Utah, and there was nothing like that. And so I said, we're gonna start this. And we called it Illuminate, and everyone's like, Illuminati, ha ha ha, But it's not Illuminati, it's Illuminate, and it's about spreading and sharing light. And so we set out to do a church history trip, which, for those of you that don't really understand or know what that is, basically our church has a lot of history throughout the United States. We would go to one place, get kicked out, move, go to another place, get kicked out, move, and eventually ended up in Utah, which was not part of the United States at the time. But we have a lot of history. And we learn about that history our whole lives growing up in this church. But do we really know what happened? And so I wanted to be able to take youth, teenagers, to these places and experience these things, and along the way have a lot of fun. So hit Chicago, DC, Philly, New York, Boston, Major League Baseball game, Broadway play. And so we started it. In the first year, when you were my neighbor, Wyatt, our goal was 6 kids. Let's get 6 kids. I just want to make it happen. And we got 7 that year. And so we just went with 7. And it was kind of crazy. We just got in a van, threw our luggage in, and we hit the road.
Oh my gosh.
And, drove, 2,800 miles and, 20 plus states in 17 days. And it was amazing. It was like the jackpot of, like, I still got to bring my camera, so I got a photograph. I got to have these experiences personally, and then I got to share these experiences with these awesome kids. And so the next year, which was, I think you were year 2. You were year 2. So we had 12 kids. So we almost doubled that first year. It was like, all right, we're doing this. And then since then, we've just been growing, and it's been pretty amazing to have these experiences. We've expanded and do international trips now, and it's just really, really awesome to be able to do that.
That's amazing. So you have that church history tour.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still do that one?
Yes, that's our baby.
Yes, the original.
Yeah.
What other places do you guys go?
So every year it's kind of amazing because we decide where we want to go that year.
Oh, that's fun.
I've been blessed enough to travel quite a bit, and I think I've hit 40 plus countries now. And this summer I hit all 50 states, and so we kind of just get to pick. And so we have a couple staples. Italy and Greece is kind of one of our staple international trips, and that was our first international trip. So after the church history trips, the kids were like, "I want to go again. I loved it," and we're like, "No, let's do something else. What if we did an international trip?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'd go." I'm like, "Okay." So we planned an international trip with the hopes that we'd get enough kids. And that first year, we had 17 kids come, and so we're like, "I guess this is gonna work. This is amazing." And so Italy, Greece. We rent a yacht, our own sailboat, and we sail the Greek Isle, so a different isle every day. Each trip we try to make something that's like you probably won't do otherwise. And the international trips aren't so much religious based, but they're still spiritual, and we still talk about light and sharing our light and spreading our light, because we feel like everybody has something to give, and we stand out as we travel, and so it's really cool. So that one we do France and Switzerland, where we go to Paris and we go to the Swiss Alps, and we hike to these huts, and like I could talk about it forever because I get excited about it really fast. This next year we're doing an Africa safari. Well, let's cross our fingers. It's, we got a few months, but Africa safari, we got France and Switzerland, we got Spain and Morocco's not this year. Italy and Greece, and Peru. So, so there's a few of them, but they're all we just try to make them at least one or two things that are just like blow your mind, you'll probably never do again.
Right.
I mean, Africa, we're going to go hike into the jungle and find gorillas. Like, that's amazing, right?
Can we
like,
sign up for this?
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're pretty awesome. So
That's
every year we
amazing.
try to mix it up a little bit, but
Yeah.
we find the ones that work and the ones that are popular and keep coming back to that too.
That's awesome.
So were you and Lindsay both all in from the beginning, or did one of you take more convincing than the other?
Well, like I say, Lindsay and I have known each other. I was 14, she was 15. We dated our whole, sophomore year, and then we were really good friends. She knows me, and in fact, she just wrote the sweetest little thing on Instagram about me, and I was like, oh. But she thought that she was going to marry this guy who, went to the same job every day and made the same amount of money every day, and that's a great life, But then she married me, and she realized that, that white picket fence she always wanted, that I can't be caged in by that. I got to be out there. So she knows. But because of her, we've been able to do all this. I was a freelance photographer for years, and that's a roller coaster. And, Illuminate took a few years to get off the ground. And so she's like, all right, I'm going to go get a job. And so she went and she graduated in education, and she got a job teaching. And so she taught for 5 or 6 years while we were figuring all this out. And she tries to come at least half on all the trips, but I'm almost on every single trip the whole time. So it's definitely both of us, because she keeps things organized. Like I mentioned in the background, she's figuring things out. But I can go. I can drive. This last summer I drove 8,000 miles. I can go, and you need that when you're with teenagers. You need someone who can go.
You need high energy.
Yeah, and I got that. I got a lot of that. So it's definitely both, though. I mean, one without the other, it wouldn't function. So.
Kind of just a side question: are only members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints allowed on your trips, or do you?
No, it's open.
Okay.
It's kind of like, BYU situation where you have to agree to follow certain guidelines,
Okay.
but they're nothing huge. It's, boys don't go in girls' rooms, girls don't go in boys' rooms. We're not going to be doing stupid stuff. And It's
Right.
basically don't be dumb. That's like my rule, But
don't be a teenager.
Yeah,
while being
yeah.
church,
Well,
right?
we have a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's open. It's just they have to agree to follow some rules.
Okay.
But we've had members of the church and a few non-members as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very cool. That's good.
I think that you're living almost everybody's dream, just with the traveling and all of those things, because I think that a lot of people really wish that they could figure out how to make this work, but I think a lot of people lack the vision, or I guess more so the ability to just take a leap of faith. It sounds like you've been very successful and you've seen a lot of growth, and I've been able to watch that through your social medias and things like that. What is it that gives you that ability that you get that idea and you're like, you know what? Why not? Let's just try it.
I mean, if you throw enough darts, you're bound to hit bullseye eventually, right? Like that was kind of like you mentioned at first. I started a shave ice stand, and Wyatt actually worked there for a little bit. I've started multiple businesses before Illuminate and since Illuminate. I mean, we just started an e-bike company. It's just, I read somewhere, it's like, it's not the one who knows the most, it's the one who's able to last the longest and just keep going. I mean, that first year, like I said, we had 7 kids and we just went. So, I mean, I didn't make a dime. The first couple of years, I didn't make any money doing these trips. But we felt strong about it and just kept going. And like I said, I have a hard time being boxed up. And like, if I had to go to the same job at the same time every day, I would literally go crazy. And so, I don't know, it's just, we've been blessed and I'm so grateful for that. But really it's we've, you know, and on social media, right, you see all the good, but you don't always see all the bad and all the hard. And a lot of the times I think it might be because how I come across as kind of goofy and silly and, you know, like they don't realize what's going on back here. There's a lot going on back there. And I don't know if anyone wants to actually know what's going on back there, but there's a lot. And running these trips is a lot of work. I mean, it's not just like we're going on vacation. Mm-hmm. But it's so much fun and it's so worth it. And we just love it, that it's totally worth it. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of work. It didn't, and my poor wife, it was what I didn't mention that. When I said I wanted to be a sheep herder in New Zealand, she said, "Your poor wife," when she was 15. And she's been my poor wife for 18 years. And so we've been through some ups and some downs, but we've stuck with it and made it work. And that's what we wanted to do, and we felt really strong about it. So
I think it would take a strong will and drive to keep that going, because it's, like you said, it's a lot of work. I've heard my mom talk about how hard it is to raise teenagers. I can't imagine taking kids all over the world and being responsible and having that on your shoulders, but you just make it work. I love it.
It's fun. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned from these trips and from building and starting Illuminate?
Oh, wow. Good question. So first of all, just how awesome, like, the youth is. Like, teenagers are so cool. And I'm so grateful that they let me into their lives and I get to be a part of their lives for a little bit. I mean, we build relationships with these kids, and I call them kids, and I still feel like a kid, but we build these relationships and we want them to go on. So 5-6 years later, you can call me up and we can be on a podcast together. Or, you know, if you need something, you can come over. And I mean, our door is revolving. We have teenagers at our house all the time. And I have a 16-year-old of my own now, and he just thinks it's so weird because we have all these kids coming over, and he's got no chance, right? If he does anything, we hear about it before he's even home. But I just love the relationships we've built with these kids and the trust that they have and their parents have put in us. We take it seriously, and we feel really strong about it, and it's just made it such a cool thing.
Yeah.
My question is, do you have any problems with that youth? I mean, you talk about it being the best thing. Is that a hard thing to work with, considering like obedience to some of the things that you talk about? I
mean, I don't know if it's the culture we set or what it is, but you know, the difference between the National Geographic trips I've ran and the trips on Illuminate is just different. The biggest thing we have to worry about is, you know, occasionally sneaking out. You know, someone being stupid on a bike. Wyatt crashed on a bike once when I told him not to, you know, like things like that. But like, we really haven't had these huge, big drama. I think it's because we handle whatever we need to handle, and we go so hard and so fast that there's no time for it. Like, you're so tired, you're so done, and we'll address it. I mean, you know, I can't remember if it was you, Wyatt, or who it was, but it's like, you won't get mad. You won't. But, like, I will, and I have. But the nice thing is I haven't had to really that much, because I don't know if it's respect or if it's just the culture, but whatever it is, it's pretty rad and it's pretty awesome because we don't have to deal with the drama a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
So
Well, I ask that because you are super personable, and obviously you have all the kids coming over to your house. You build good relationships, and as great of a strength as that is, I could also see it being a potential thing where they start to not respect you, right? And it sounds like you don't have that issue very much, so that's really cool.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know where it comes from or what the magic sauce is, but I mean, yeah, there's kids that are just kind of punks. I mean, I was one of those kids. I get it, and maybe that's why I can relate, or I don't know, but you know, we have expectations, we have rules, but if you just aren't dumb, don't be dumb. I mean, you follow that one rule and we're good.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we really, really can have amazing experiences, and I think these kids just know that if they do what they're supposed to do, and it's gonna be amazing. And
Yeah.
if they don't, then you know, I mean, we haven't sent one kid home in
Right.
8 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, it hasn't been a problem. It's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
No, the youth really are amazing, and I say that as a youth pretty much, but you know, I have seen some of the most just inspiring good light, like you talk about, coming from youth.
Oh yeah.
It always amazes me to see some of the things that happen in that
Yeah.
sphere.
Well, I just really appreciate what you guys have done. I never actually went on any of your trips, but I think you really have established a culture. At the high school, I heard about you guys all the time. Everybody would talk about your trips and everything. I just think that you guys are doing something really, really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I think it totally is changing people's lives. And Wyatt still talks about his experiences from, what was it, 6 years ago? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what it
gotta be
was?
6.
You know?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, when you started out, what was your main goal? You've talked about having a goal of starting with 6 people and some other side goals. What was the main goal when you started?
So, and this is where I'll get a little, you know, spiritual or religious-y. But basically, I feel like in our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there's, the more time goes by, the more divisive Joseph Smith becomes. And he was told he'll be known for good and evil. He was told that the first time an angel appeared to him. He was told that. So it's no surprise, but it's happening. And a lot of people's issues with our church is with Joseph Smith. And so the goal of this was to gain a testimony not of Joseph Smith, but of the restoration through the prophet Joseph Smith. That the Church of Jesus Christ has been restored to the earth. That was the goal. To have teenagers have those experiences for themselves so that then they can go on into the world and have that foundation. And you don't have to go on a trip to get that, right? Like, you can do that without a trip across the country. But for me, being visual, being a photographer, having that background, being able to be in those places that we've talked about our whole lives and we've heard about for, 4 years of seminary and all this time in church, if we could go there and be there and it becomes real, it's a much better chance you're going to stay with that. So that was the goal originally. It wasn't really about traveling internationally. The goal originally was a church history trip and then a Jesus church history trip, go to Israel and do that trip. We haven't even got there yet. Things twist and turn and you make, things happen. We're still working on that. We were supposed to go to Israel this fall to scout it because we always get to scout. That's the best part is Lindsay and I get to go on the trip before the kids come to make sure it runs all smooth. But that was the goal originally, was to do a church history trip in the United States and then offer an Israel trip. And so we're getting there and we've expanded and we've kind of manipulated it and got to where we wanted to be or almost to where we wanted to be. But yeah, that was the goal originally.
So as you've been expanding and creating different trips, did you ever see it becoming as big as it has become? Was that ever a vision that you caught before?
I mean, so Lindsay calls it the worst business plan in the world because I don't want to grow. because then I lose the relationships.
Uh-huh.
If I'm just this guy running, like making sure, and I have hundreds of kids all over the world, then I lose that connection, and I don't want that. I love being a part of it. I mean, maybe it's FOMO, or I don't know. I love it, and the connections that are built are special. And so Lindsay always makes fun of me. She's like, how, like, we got to grow. That's the goal of a business, is to grow. And so, you know, other trips that do, other companies that do these church history trips get big buses and have 80 kids on one trip. And I think we could honestly, well, this year we filled up in a month for our 2 church history trips, 2 vans each way. So that's 25 kids, 50 kids. And we could do more. We could do a bus, but I just have the hardest time
losing the person.
Yeah, I don't want to lose that connection.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, the goal was to grow. The goal was to give as many kids this opportunity as possible. And I mean, on a normal summer, nothing's normal in 2020, but a normal summer, I'm gone from the first Tuesday in June to the day before school starts. And I'm home maybe 2 or 3 days. I mean, it's boom, 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 trip, which I love. But seeing the international stuff come, that was kind of like, we weren't expecting that. That wasn't our business plan at the start. And that was just part of being flexible and being adaptable and moving with what we have. And so it's different than I thought it would be, but it's better and it's incredible. And I love it. When we can actually go on the full trips.
So do you do a scout trip before all of your locations? Or?
Most of the international trips we do. If I haven't been, we'll try to do a scouting trip. And so Lindsay and I will go usually the year before or the fall before and kind of plan the trip. We just call it a scouting trip, and just figure it out, make sure it all functions and the schedule's good. But that's kind of awesome too, because we, like I said, we're supposed to go to Israel. We didn't get to go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but yeah, the scouting trips are a blast too.
Well, I asked that question because I remember on our trip to, I just did the church history one in America, and you took us to some really unique places. You took us to the general places. We went to the Bean in Chicago.
Yeah.
We went to some big landmarks across America. But there were a few times that you stopped us in places that we were like, where in the world did he find this? Like one, for example, just as a quick story. I don't remember which city we were in, to be honest, and you'll probably be able to remind me. But we were going to a store, and we were walking in. You took us to this. It looked like, at first glance, we were walking into some convenience store, just a bunch of people sitting around, like, beating a drum. They're sitting with their speakers. They're all blasting, and we're like, what are we doing here? Are we buying, like... It looked like, literally like we were going to buy a couple snacks or something. I don't know. And then, all of a sudden, Justin says some secret words or something. I don't know exactly what happened. And all of a sudden, this vending machine or something, I don't know. It was like some trap door opens up, and all of a sudden, it's this super posh clothing store with all kinds of cool things. Where did you find that one, for example?
I can't give away my sources. That place is amazing, though, because it looks like a dump hole convenience store, like ghetto dump hole. And then you walk in and the Snapple machine opens up, and it's this sweet, super hipster store. Incredible. Anyway, so I'll tell you after where it was. So I'll remind you. I'm not giving up my sources. That's what I love about travel. It's just like these, like, yes, when you're in DC, you're going to go to the Lincoln, or the Washington, whatever. You're going to do those things. I always try to talk about being a traveler, not a tourist. But sometimes it's fun and you're just going to be a tourist. And that's okay. But I always try to add these little weird or unique things. And it's just, honestly, that one I had just heard something and then researched it and figured it out and then figured it out. I mean, that's really kind of what it is. It's figuring things out. But I love that. Like, I try, lunches on these trips, especially the church history, we do fast food just because we're in a hurry and we got to go. But dinners, I try to make it, if we're in Philly, we're eating Philly cheesesteaks. If we're in Chicago, it's deep dish pizza. Like, I try to add that part of the story and part of the trip because it's it's part of it. So that's always fun for me. And the research, I'm an over researcher, like about everything. When we got countertops in our house, and I know more about countertops than you'll ever want to know. So if you need a countertop recommendation, I'm your guy. But like, that's what I do. I just research and over research almost, but so we can have these really unique, cool experiences.
I just want to ask maybe one more question about Israel. Just because, I mean, you talk about some things that you're working towards in the long run.
Mm.
I think of a travel to Jerusalem as a super, super big goal of mine. That'd be heaven. If I make it to Jerusalem, like, I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to die kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's just wait a couple years for that then.
But I wonder, because I've heard of so many different just dangerous, maybe sketchy things that, I mean, you kind of have to know your way around Israel and the Holy Land pretty dang well, from my understanding. And that might be blown out of proportion. Maybe I don't understand. I haven't done my own research.
Yeah.
So first of all, I have 2 questions. How soon do you see yourselves creating a trip like that? And then second of all, how do you prepare for something like that? And
so that's why 8 years later we still haven't made it there, because that one's different. That one requires a little more work ahead of time. So we were, to answer that, I think, second question first, we were planning on doing one this next summer. If we were able to go in October, most likely we would have offered it for next summer. That didn't happen, and so that's one of the trips that some I can manage not going before. It just depends. But most I go before. That one I have to go before because of the situation, because of I was going to bring in another guide who is familiar with that area to kind of be the guide on the ground, and that's what we did when we went to Morocco as well. Morocco was kind of nuts, and so I did research and found a guide who knows the country and is able to do things a little better than what I'm not driving a bus in Morocco, and I'm not driving a van in Jerusalem. I don't want to do that. I'll drive in Europe, I'll do other stuff, but I'm not going to do that. So it's just researching, finding contacts that I can trust. But the Israel thing, it's going to happen. I mean, you can't say, guaranteed, but I'm going to make it happen. So in the next couple of years, and we are expanding, because with youth, with teenagers, I have June, July, August, right? Again, poor business plan. And so we're expanding to do some adult trips. I'm working with corporate kind of incentive travel with companies and even families that want to travel and don't know how or don't know where to start. I'm expanding the thing a little bit, but yeah, Israel will happen, and we'll get you there, Wyatt.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
You can go ahead and wrap up now.
Okay. We just kind of want to end with our trademark question.
Yeah.
Just kind of what good vibes do you have to leave with us here in the Hive is what the question is.
Yeah, I love that question too. And I'm going to read something, even though because my memory, I can barely remember names. My memory's gone. I could take you across the United States without a map, but I want to read this because this is kind of, this quote I just love so much. And I try to, there's certain kids that come on the trip that don't recognize, many teenagers don't recognize their potential and don't recognize how awesome they really are. So I try to really encourage that. But this is a quote, and you've probably heard it, and it's a little cheesy, but sometimes so am I. So that's okay. But this is the what is it? The good vibes.
Yeah.
This is the good vibes that I have for you.
Sweet.
So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I love that quote. It does nobody favors to sell yourself short, to play small. And so that's kind of like our mission statement. Don't play small. You're made for something here. And don't be afraid to share that.
Yeah.
Well, we love it, and we appreciate all that you're doing. We look forward to going to Jerusalem someday with you.
Do it.
You can bet on it. But we appreciate you for coming, and you're a really cool guy, and we just are super grateful to have people like you that are
Yeah.
willing to join our podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's my pleasure.